Welcome to Talent Takeover Unfiltered. When it comes to working hard and keeping it real, we know our shit. Self-care, happiness, inner peace, and time. I'm Brianna Rooney, and this is Taylor Bradley.
Hey, y'all.
And we have thrived in chaos and turned it into an art form. So, Taylor, what are we doing here today?
We're here to give you a raw, under-the-hood view of all things recruiting and finally give credit where credit is due to a long underrated industry that's full of quote-unquote experts.
All right. Well, then let's take this show to the road. Hello. Welcome to another amazing episode of Talent Takeover Unfiltered. Taylor, how you doing?
Doing well this morning. How are you?
Good. No, all good in my neighborhood. I had a mom win, got the kids to camp on time and to the podcast on time. Winning.
Yes. Is it typically a struggle for you to get the kids to camp on time?
Yeah, because it's a little far away.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, you're usually such an on-time person.
No, totally. But no, it just camps farther away, then farther away from work. And anyways.
Yeah, the logistics.
The logistics.
I get it.
The boring stuff. Well, let's get into this topic because it is meaty. And if you have watched and listened, because you can watch on the Millionaire Recruiter YouTube, then you'll know sometimes we like to cap things in about 15, 20 minutes. Well, guess what? Life isn't always like that. Some things are meatier than others. So we might just roll longer on this one because it's how to deal with negative people in the workplace. Taylor, I know you know some negative people
like
that you've
could throw that down. Yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely, and it's like, is it negative clients? Is it negative coworkers? Is it negative managers? And I can speak for myself. I've had at least one of every single one of those categories. You know what I mean? Throughout my career, not current state, but and I can honestly say not current state, which is actually a really great thing. And I didn't, that just hit me right now. I'm like, I don't really have anybody that I work with. Yeah, like friends and people. But I think that happens as you get older too. Like from a personal standpoint, I think as you get older, you just like your time gets so valuable to you. And especially if you have to balance between spouse and kids and all that shit, right? Like you want to choose to surround yourself with people that are positive and that bring positivity and good vibes into your life. Like I don't want to go hang out with somebody that's going to be Debbie Downer and all they're going to be doing is bitching like all the time. It's okay every now and then venting. I look at it as like two different things. Everybody needs to vent, and I'm 1,000% for that. I do it with friends. I love it when friends do it with me. But I mean, if it becomes a theme, it's like, okay, what are we going to do different? Now we're just complaining at this point, like we're bitching about the same thing. We got to do something different. So I think we should get into like, how do you deal with those kinds of people? So what's your thought process on how you deal with those kinds of people?
Yeah, so I'm all for that. I'm Miss Positive Polly over here. And yeah. And like I'm always like, oh, well, this happened because that. And I'm always very much the universe rewards you and karma and like, hey, you know what? Let's just get up and do it again. Like I've been built like that. I definitely also trained myself to do that as well. But I will say negative people are exhausting. So you can only help people so much. And at one point you just have to walk away and be like, you need to help yourself. Like I am here for you. I'm here, whatever. Like shit hits the fan. Like, sure, you can call me. Cause that's the whole thing. It's like, I don't want people to think that they can't come to me after I've already put up a little bit of a boundary, because it's more of just like, look, like you're bringing me down. Like this is a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, we talk about like what you say to yourself is what you become. Right. So it's like, if you're constantly around just people that are tearing themselves down, it's like, you kind of almost get on that bandwagon too, where it's like, oh, right, it is hard. Or, oh my God, yeah, my thighs do look fat, like it goes personal and professional, like all the time. But I think what we want to focus on this episode, because we can really steer in a different direction, is when you don't have the option, when like, let's say your coworker or your boss, how do you deal with it in the workplace?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll tell a personal story that you're very familiar with. You and I have talked about it. So I had a coworker, obviously not going to say names, not going to say timeline or anything like that. But I had a coworker who I primarily have worked in West Coast time. But this individual worked in East Coast time. So she was an hour ahead of me. I'm in Central. And so she'd call me every morning before like any of our coworkers in the West Coast are up. And she'd call me every single morning and I'd answer while I was doing my walk or like warming up for my workout or whatever. And every morning, and it's like the ass crack of dawn, I'd answer and it'd just be negativity. It was just bitching. And at first I was like, I'm going to be a sounding board because I very much am that person to my friends, to my coworkers. I want them to feel like they can come to me. But I started to realize, and again, you and I have talked about it, the effect it was having on me. It was like, it was setting the tone for my entire day, because I'm not joking, y'all. It was every single day. It was every morning. And it was. And it was just like, same shit, different toilet. You know what I mean? That we're like complaining about. But when I say we, I'm using that loosely. Like I'm going to be a sounding board, but it just got to where it was like sucking the life out of me. And you know me, I'm very, very transparent. And so even in my friendships, I'm transparent, and was like, I'm going to have to distance myself. And I told that person, like, I'm going to have to distance myself. I can't take these calls and start my day with these calls every morning. It is bringing me down. It is sucking the life out of me. And it's like setting the tone for my whole day just to be negative and just like view everything everybody did as negative. And it just, you start to kind of like adopt that mentality, even though I wasn't experiencing those same things this individual was. It was starting to like, I was adopting that same negative mentality about, say, certain situations. And I was just like, woof, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And it didn't take long for me to figure that out. And then again, being very honest with like, I can't start my day like this anymore. I'm going to distance myself. Of course, it didn't go over well. So I think that's something for our listeners to know, that is one of the tips that we have for you is you've got to distance yourself. You've got to like really practice your self-care and what that means for you. And that doesn't mean starting your day off with like, the most negative rants and bitching and all of that, like literally at 7:30 a.m. Nobody needs to start their day like that,
Yeah. So looking back, would you have been honest? Because like, I think it's great that you said like, look, like I can't do like negativity, but since it didn't go well. So would you do that again? Or would you maybe give the tips of like, hey, why don't you just stop taking the calls, or say, hey, you know what? I actually focus on a very positive workout morning routine. So I can't take your calls anymore in the morning. Like, would you have done it more of in a like a less transparent way, or would you still done
No, fuck no.
same thing?
No.
Yeah.
No, I feel like, we've talked about this with regards to me when you and I had a really great conversation in Arizona. I really am just really honest. And it's not like, it can seem bitchy sometimes to people, but I mean, and I certainly did say like, I have to be in a certain mindset for my workout. I can't be, in this negative mindset, and it sets the tone for my workout, sets the tone for my day. And that's all the truth. That was truly how I was feeling.
Mhm.
And so I think that if somebody's offended by that, that's their own problem. That's their own issues. You know what I mean? Like somebody said that to me, like, hey, I can't start my day like this. If I was doing that to somebody else, I'd have to respect how they feel. It's their day. It's their time. They've given me hours and hours upon hours, weeks, months of their time of doing that. And then they get to a point where like, this isn't healthy for me to start my day that way. And so I feel like I know for a fact, if someone said that to me exactly the way that I said it, gave the context, the explanation, how it was making them feel, that I'd be like, okay, I respect you telling me the truth. That's your truth, and I respect it. And I think anybody who's truly your friend, they get it. Like I truly live my life that way. Like if you're really my friend, or you're really somebody that I can confide in, or a confidant to me, or I am to you, then we can have those honest conversations with each other and nobody gets offended. I feel like it's a certain level of trust that you have to have with somebody, and security and confidence within yourself. And if you don't have those things where somebody can't tell you the truth and you receive it well, then I do feel like it's like, that's your own issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. I just think that most negative people, there's zero self-awareness. That's
There
kinda like
is.
why they're so negative. So that's, I just can imagine that every single time you would say that to a very negative person, they're gonna come back and like, oh my, it just gets difficult. Like, okay, let me ask you this. Did you have to work with this person like often? Was it like on a regular basis, or was just someone on your team, or?
No, I had to work with this person on a regular basis. Not so much to where it's like, call me every day. Not like that, certainly. But yeah, definitely our paths would cross multiple times in a week from a work standpoint. And then we also used to just like grind really late evenings together and like work on stuff. And so yeah, like I would say like get a second opinion when we were the only ones working at like 9 p.m. to really try to get something done or accomplished in the startup of a company. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that our paths didn't need to cross as much as they did. And that's exactly why we got to the point that we did, right? Where it's that level of comfort. Like I'll call you at 7:30 in the morning. Like there's very few people that I'll call at 7:30 in the morning. Like I have to know you're up and what kind of schedule you have and that you're okay with it and all that stuff. But I mean, you don't just call all your friends at 7:30 in the morning. their time. You know what I mean?
They would kill me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't. I'm up, but I'm saying like I text you and shit because I know you're up.
Yeah.
I'll text
Yeah,
you early.
yeah.
But we have a level of comfort, and I think that's just it. I did get to a level of comfort with this person where, yeah, sure, call me, and it doesn't matter if it's 7:30 in the morning. But what got to be exhausting was the everyday negativity, and then I think that that's exactly what we're talking about here. Is that it started to change my perceptions of people in the workplace that I didn't have necessarily the day-to-day interactions with. Like, they weren't on my team. So maybe they're on her team and I have nothing to do with working with those individuals, but I'm hearing just negative about them all the time. And so it's just inherent that you're going to adopt that mentality if somebody feeds you that. Like, your perception of that person is going to be negative if all you've ever heard is negative things about them, regardless of if you've ever had any direct interactions with them or not. So I started to see that and observe that in myself. Not only was it putting me in a bad mood for the rest of the day, it was making me feel a way about certain people in the company, about certain situations that I normally wouldn't perceive so negatively, or wouldn't even, like, my mind wouldn't even go there to interpret something in a negative way. And then now, after talking to them, it's like, I just was like, no, 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 no. Like, I am self-aware enough to know, like, what effect it had on me, and I can't do it anymore. And, I kind of also, at the point that I had the conversation though, too, was like, I had a fuck it mentality. Like, if this person doesn't like it, like, I've been dealing with this shit for months. If this person doesn't like it, then that's not a friend to me anyway. Like, I'm good on that, fuck it. Like, I have nothing to lose by speaking my truth, because if you're really my friend, you'll receive what I have to say. You'll respect my opinion and how I'm feeling, and there won't be any hard feelings. But if we're not really friends and you do get, upset about it, then I feel like, which is exactly what happened, but that's your own issue. And then things play out organically from there, exactly how they're supposed to, which was, I needed to distance myself from that individual. That person was toxic, and I needed to distance myself. And my relationships within the workplace, or perceptions of people, it all got better when that person, I shouldn't say I distanced myself. I just said, I can't take these morning bitching calls, right. But they didn't like the feedback. So then they distanced themselves from me, and it was like, okay, all good. Like, things have been how they're supposed to. My perception changed of things, and it got more positive, and it was all for a reason,
That's exactly what I was waiting, but you hit it. I was going to bring up the T word, toxic. And this is actually interesting. I didn't want to talk about this topic to even go this direction, but I like that it did, because it shows that having just one toxic individual on your team, how harmful it really is cross functions, to the organization, to the morale, to the overall health. I mean, think about the anxiety you probably had every single time you saw that person's number come up, and I'd imagine, since you let it go on for a while, you were probably like waiting for that moment to be like, I can't take it anymore, and so,
Yeah.
I'm over here, like, holding my little, anxious stress reliever over here, just listening to the story. Yeah, but it's crazy.
What I didn't do a good job of, which is, like, for all of our listeners, what you have to make sure to do a good job of, but, like, learn from my mistakes, you have to set boundaries. I think it's okay to be a sounding board for somebody, but I didn't set a boundary, and I answered those calls every day at 7:30 a.m. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't establish good, healthy boundaries.
Yeah, that's a choice. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a choice. It was absolutely a choice. I could have set boundaries to where I'm still a sounding board for you, but the everyday thing, you know what I mean? That's where it got to be too much, because I can handle somebody just needing to vent. I think every single person should have somebody that they can vent to in the workplace, they can confide in. Like, you spend so much time talking to and around the people that you work with, you have to have a confidant at work. I'm a firm believer in that. But I think you still have to have boundaries around that, that relationship, and respecting each other's boundaries. And, so all the things that we talk about, like, be empathetic, listen empathetically, with regards to candidates, with everything, be empathetic. I was empathetic to a point that it was detrimental to me. Like, I was absorbing the emotions of this person. And I just think you can't do that. You just have to set boundaries with anybody. It doesn't have to be a coworker. It could be friends. It could be family. Anybody. If it starts to become detrimental to you and your mental health, then it's a problem. But yeah, I didn't set the boundary.
Okay, 100%. Like, as I'm like kind of rolling through, okay, like, worst case scenarios, if we had a certain employee, team member, what's like the worst personality to have? It might be someone that's negative, because I'm thinking, how does someone that's negative get anything done? because I know when I'm kind of in like this mode of like, woe is me, no one's gotten back, it's cricket.
Don't forget to tune in to Talent Takeover Unfiltered next week for part 2.